Before tiling your wall, you need to plan the layout of the tiles for both walls and floors. With floor tiles, you simply just lay them on the floor and you can see exactly where they need to go. But a little bit more tricky with a wall. So you have to make yourself a tile gauge. A tile gauge is pretty straightforward. It's just a thin strip of timber and we've actually marked out spaces of our tiles on there. So I've laid the tiles out on the floor, put the tile gauge up next to it, and I've allowed for the grouting obviously. And then you just basically marked up the exact spacing of the tiles. Now the reason for this, well, let me show you. Pretty straightforward. When you're actually laying your tiles out on the wall, they're obviously a standard width. So you use your tile gauge, put it up on the wall. Now you can see here, you can actually have a small tile. So that's not going to look very nice. So you actually want to try and shift it around a bit until you get an even spacing of tiles on both sides. So shift it around until you've got an even pattern, especially if you're going around doors and windows. Reduce costs by planning an edge tile that is half the width of a full tile or less. You will then get 2 edge tiles from one cut. Depending if you have taps as well, you need to accommodate for that. So maybe you want to shuffle our tile gauge over a bit so that our tile lines are actually just slightly either side of these taps instead of being randomly a quarter of the way between the taps. It's going to look a little bit odd. So depending on your wall and depending on the joining surfaces, you have to adjust the layout of your tiles accordingly. And exactly the same process from top to bottom. You don't want to have a neat row at the bottom and then a thin strip at the top. The next thing to do is draw a straight line to give our vertical edge where our first row of tiles will actually start. Now obviously we're going to use a spirit level to make sure that we have got it vertical and our tiles are going to look neat and tidy. Just line it up, use the bubble. That's about right. Right, we've got our vertical line in. Next thing to do is to actually mark out where our first row of full tiles is going to start at the bottom. So we actually start at the top, put our tile gauge right at the top, mark off our lines. We're going to join around about there. There we go. That's where our first row of tiles is actually going to start on that mark there. Because you can see that there's not quite enough space for a full tile. So we've got around about a 75–80% tile at the bottom. Now we've got a horizontal point. We're now going to use our spirit level to make a horizontal line that is level. That's the first row of whole tiles that we're going to use. Now to stop those from sliding down when we actually apply them, we're going to put in a wooden border across there to actually hold it up like a fake floor, shall we say. Now straight away you can see our floor is quite unlevel, so we're going to chock that end up to make sure that we get it an even level ledge in line with our line. So we get to make sure it's exactly level. Perfect, we've got that level. Now just to make sure it doesn't slide out of place, we're going to put some cobblestones in there. But remember, if you're not doing a shower, which is not sealed for waterproofing, you can actually just mount that timber directly to the wall, so it hasn't got to be chocked up. See if our tile fits in place. Perfect, that's easy. We haven't even got the tile adhesive on there yet, and it's able to hold in place, so we know that's going to be perfect once we stick it on. Exactly the same process for the rest of the wall. Chock it up, hold into position, mark up with your tile gauge so you've got your tiles fitting neatly and you don't end up with small little slithers on the corners. Tiling is a messy affair, so keep in mind to actually remove your tap heads and tape up the remainder. You don't want to get them damaged. A window or door in a tiled wall can be a focal point for a room. So try your best to frame the feature with tiles so they look good. When you have a window and a door on the same wall, then plan around the window so the tiles frame it. If you're going to be tiling a part of a wall, then make sure you plan from top to bottom. You want a full tile at the top because that's more of a focal point, and then cut tiles at the bottom. If you need any help planning your wall tiles, go down and see the guys at Builders. They'll be more than happy to help you.